Folks, this is super exciting because I'm on the road. I'm in New York, baby, the city that never sleeps. My sinuses exploded this past week, so pardon my voice, but it's too exciting. I'm in the Betches offices, the Betches studio. It is brand new, and I have one of my favorite guests. One of the reasons why I am here at Betches Media. She is a huge inspiration to me, and I think to a lot of you guys out there. I do want to start off by saying her book that she co-wrote with Emily Amick, Democracy in Retrograde, is out now. I think this is the perfect holiday gift. I know people might be weirded out that I say that, but I think this is, really actually a nonpartisan book that teaches you kind of how government works. And I know we are all
Doesn't
burned.
That sound so fun?
Yeah, guys, hey, starting off
how
strong.
How government works.
Listen, this is how Vanderpump Rules and government works. No, but
there are a fair amount of Bravo references.
No, there is. And there's a great entrance points, but I think this is great for your kids, yourself. I mean, get people actively involved and try to be excited about this process that kind of really will knock your soul into the dirt at certain points. But anyways, on top of that, she is one of the co-founders of Betches. She hosts the Morning Announcements podcast. She hosts Betches podcast and, of course, the American Fever Dream podcast. And we have her here today, the one, the only, Sami Sage.
Ryan, you make me sound so much better than I am, truly.
No, I think I nailed it. I felt like I could keep going, but we only have an hour.
No, we only have an hour, but we can, but for real, I mean, the book is like, I'm trying, it's a tough time, I'm sure. I mean, this is a pop culture podcast, so we don't need to go too into it, but anyone who's upset about, the election, I know some people are disappointed. It will make you feel better. And it's also a very practical guide.
Yes.
To help you feel better.
That's what because I've read it and I listened to the audiobook, which by the way, I need an audiobook where you guys read it. Because I'm listening to some other person read it, and I was like, I need Sami's voice on this, but that's just neither here nor there.
There was no time. It was unfortunate.
No, I was just impressed that it does take you behind the scenes in a nonpartisan fashion, where I kind of understood you even go into state and local elections, what you can do as a citizen. And I think coming out of this election, we are all so burnt out. And I'm a big person on hope. I always ask guests, like, is there still hope? And I don't even mean just in like the world, but in pop culture. Are you still hopeful? And I guess as we get into primarily a fun interview, where are you on the hope scale at the end of 2024?
I don't want to quantify it, but I will say that hope is it's not like this like rosy emotion. And we actually talk about this in the book. And, it sounds, the way we're describing it, it sounds very esoteric, but I think something that what we really wanted to convey is that what people think politics is not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like engaging with it. It is supposed to be the process of engaging with the people around you who share or maybe don't share interests, where you come together to mutually and constructively decide the way that we're all going to coexist. And it's supposed to be a positive thing. It's not, and I think that what we've been corrupted by are like these 24-hour news cycles, and I'm a news junkie.
It's all rage baiting.
And this weird structure of incentives, partially thanks to the internet, where it's like the more you enrage people, the more popular you get.
Yeah.
And that is not what it's supposed to be. And if people are feeling frustrated and just like burnt out by these unprecedented times, I would say it's because of this. And, if you want to kind of put that aside and find a new way to interact with people, if you're, have issues with your family or friends or anything around this will help you like see what that side is.
Yeah.
And not feel so shitty generally. Plus, there's lots of pop culture references.
No, there is. I mean, I think pop culture, That's a great entrance point into any sort of conversation, and it's where you can get mutual ground with anybody. No matter what side of the aisle, you will have an opinion on Taylor Swift. You know, we might not be able to agree on Trump, but hopefully we can agree on Taylor Swift. In fact, that's not true, actually, Sammy. I think I got into a fight with somebody about Taylor Swift this morning because
that's an easy person to get into a fight about, but no one thinks you're like the devil, or maybe they do. I don't know. People get really intense on these Reddits sometimes.
Yes. Well, I have a like no Reddit policy. People will send me Reddits, but I will not go deep diving myself on there because I'm trying not to practice self-harm at the end of 2024. But
you're missing out.
I was looking at Rolling Stone did like a top 15 albums of the year, and Taylor Swift's album wasn't on there. And I had interviewed Rob Sheffield, who had this great Taylor Swift book that just came out a couple weeks ago called Heartbreak is the National Anthem, and he writes for Rolling Stone. And I said, hey, at Rob Sheffield, where's Taylor Swift? And it was kind of a little cheeky comment. And then immediately somebody writes, it's because Taylor Swift sucks. And I'm like, it's Monday. I can't do this right now with you.
Right. Like, okay, argue with all the people who went to the Eras tour. We really needed your very eloquent opinion. Taylor Swift sucks. Like, it's one thing if someone could be like, oh, I don't think she should be on the top 15 albums because XYZ, this wasn't her best, or I didn't like XYZ thing about it, or these albums are better because. That's totally different than Taylor Swift sucks.
It's such
like,
a blanket
You're
statement.
boring. You're so boring, bot.
Yeah. I was thinking about losses, obviously, this last month. And then, you know, just to really kick us while we're potentially down, we got news this week, right before Thanksgiving, that the OG Vanderpump Rules cast members are done. And they are going to start over with a whole new crew of toxic individuals that work at Sexy Unique Restaurant. I really was still surprised with this news, even though I kind of knew that something was in the works. I was still surprised, and it really did feel like, I don't know if you watched Empire Strikes Back, the Star Wars movie, but
I've not seen any Star Wars.
Oh, Sammy, what are we even doing with? Okay, Sam, I can't do this. This is
sorry.
I came all the way.
I don't like the wars, the Star Trek. I'm not.
But they're in the stars, Sam. They're not going to affect you at all. It's like a whole galaxy.
It's just like not my thing. Like,
okay.
I like Housewives more.
Okay, well, let me put it like Housewives related. Like, say like Ramona and Jill Zarin and all these people are on another planet. At the end of the second movie with these people, they're like losing out to the galactic overlord Countess Luann, right? And
are you saying that they're the good guys?
Well, I'm just trying to think of an example really quick so you can understand it. This is not really thought out. Basically, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, all hope is potentially lost. But then Return of the Jedi, the next movie, good ends up winning. And that's what I felt like with the Vanderpump Rules news. And I said, we're lost. We're just all hope is lost. Did you want to see another season with this cast?
I could take it or leave it. I really was like, here's how I think about it. I would rather not see another season and leave it where it is in all its glory than watch it like pitter out again. And another season of just the same. I don't think it would have been that different.
Yeah.
And I think that there's actually like more hope to watch, like you said, a new cast of toxic individuals who are trying to make their way in LA.
Yeah.
Who can really provide us with a new era for real. Like this, you don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
Well, but it is that
anything.
It's that lightning in a bottle that Vanderpump Rules captured so beautifully that I don't know if you can recapture again, but they're going to try, obviously, because there's so much money behind the name Vanderpump Rules. But I was trying to tell the audience, I live in LA, and I've got to assure the audience there are so many toxic people there still. I see them every day. So I think there's potentially some good casting there. And especially if they don't have an Instagram following yet, how exciting to have people that aren't influencers.
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be like, to me, this is sort of like making Wicked. The source material you have is so good that you just have to really try to fuck it up almost. That you right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And just a fun fact for the listeners, the source material for Wicked was The Wizard of Oz. It's a little fun fact.
Oh no, I'm talking about Wicked, like
Oh, the
Wicked
book.
Broadway.
Oh,
No, not
that's
the
it, yeah.
Broadway show. Like all the songs are amazing. Everything's amazing. So you would have to really like do a very bad reinterpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, you know, if you immediately get somebody cheating out of the gate or sleeping with one of the managers, if we can get Lisa Vanderpump in some sort of scandal where she cheats on Ken, like, I mean, right there, you have one season in the bank.
Exactly. And you don't even need that. We could just get, like, I know people are probably worried because they've seen how Roni, the reboot, did, but that's different. That's a much more self-conscious crowd living in New York City versus people who know what they have to do to make it. They have to go crazy on Vanderpump Rules, and then maybe they could be Ariana one day, or maybe they could be Mr. Beast. And they just, I think that like they are, you know, maybe we're not going to get Stassi, Jax, Sandoval and a 10-year arc that is so deeply satisfying. Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
But we could get receipts, proof, screenshots, timeline level interestingness. Or we could get like the girl from Love is Blind who said she looks like Megan Fox. Like we could get so much. There's so many amazing things that can happen. And sorry, hold on, my thing fell out. My AirPod fell out. I was getting so excited.
It's exciting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We could just have like the sky is truly the limit. The Sir Alley is the limit.
Well,
actually.
you know, and you think about it in this kind of beautiful way, and I'm thinking about it from this financial standpoint of like, and they're not going to have to pay millions of dollars to this cast that's been there for like a 12-season run, and people are demanding more and more money, and you have the Valley already with Jax and Brittany and Doute, so it's this feeder system into the Valley because we're going to see all these goofballs still pop up. Tom Schwartz, Scheana, Lala, they all moved to the Valley, and I had said this 6 months ago. I said they are going to be on the Valley, whether you like it or not. And now finally it's coming out that officially they are on the Valley.
Of course, I hadn't even considered Bravo's P&L, but that's, I hadn't even thought about that. But
you did. I mean, they're carrying that at this point, such a massive amount of like overhead for a show that exists on like slim profit margins. And remember, Bravo doesn't produce it. Evolution Media and 32 Flavors, Alex Baskin's company does. So he's thinking about his bottom line because he also does Beverly Hills, Orange County, the Valley.
Well, he's doing some of the best shows. So he can
be a little cocky.
The advertising on that is good. I don't know what the streaming cut is. I can't speak to the financials. And I this is above my pay grade. I can only speak to what I see. But your point is good. The other thing is we don't need Vanderpump Rules, the show, to continue to watch Ariana and company play out.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I need to watch them be forced into these filming situations that they are very good at manipulating now. Now there's all these other places we could see what happens in their lives and read about them and discuss them, and
because it really would be forced.
Video podcasts.
Well, it would be this thing. And I said, make a game out of it. Trap everybody in Sir Restaurant if you're going to have the old cast, and don't let them out for 3 weeks, and then let them out and just burn the restaurant down and just finish it off that way. But, we get to see Ariana on the Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade, which, by the way, this is so interesting just thinking about the hate that Taylor Swift gets. I was reading some of the hate that Ariana gets, and it's so interesting when somebody kind of rises above a certain level that people expect them to get to. They almost immediately go into, you don't deserve it, you don't do this. And I'm watching each thing that Ariana does. I'm like, she's doing pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think she is well on her way to whatever she wants to do. I think she's a great entertainer. And as long as she can get the gigs, keep getting them. I'm happy to watch her.
And she doesn't have to share her personal life.
Yeah, right. And she didn't want to. And that's why, think about why she probably moved to LA to begin with. Why was she Scheana's backup dancer? So she could be doing the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah, and by the way, when we first met Ariana, she was trying to hide from the camera as Scheana's backup dancer because she was embarrassed to kind of be there. And now she finally gets to put her personal life aside again after sharing something kind of really tragic. So I think that's a fitting ending for her, whereas Scheana wants to be on reality TV.
Right. Why do people want to gatekeep her second act? They wouldn't be doing that to any they're not gatekeeping, Jake Paul's second act as a wrestler or whatever. Like,
I wish people would gatekeep them more.
Yeah, like stop gatekeeping her. She's doing great. She had I think she had the most like successful run of Chicago, didn't she?
Yeah, she sold out like 2 separate runs, supposedly, or like really dang close to it, where they offered her a second run. And there's rumors that she's going to do another Broadway show in 2025, I heard. So she's great. I'm just more interested as a sociological experiment to see where these people are a year from now, 2 years from now, which podcasts continue to kind of flourish, because a lot of these podcasts are based on backstage information with Vanderpump Rules.
Right. Well, I think maybe it's more interesting because there's nowhere to like where they have to reckon with confronting each other.
Yeah.
They can just kind of say what they want to say, and
or they can make up their own reality. They don't have to tell the truth either.
And then they're also on the Valley. They'll also have maybe things like BravoCon because they are on the Valley, or certain events that are adjacent, which, as we can see from Beverly Hills, is a source of quote unquote drama potentially.
Yeah.
Which I think is so stupid
it's
and
Amazon,
weird.
Sami, it's Amazon Lives. Amazon Lives are a source of a big bone of contention. Amazon Lives, BravoCon, Watch What Happens Live, and podcasts. Those are the 4-pronged things that reality show stars on Bravo get into fights about now.
Yeah, and we're seeing them do a reality show. It's just called Life.
Well, okay. So Beverly Hills, what I was really fascinated with this past week is that you have this idea of single PK. It's me, PK. I'm sexy. Look at me in my new clothes, Doute. And he's really, you see a different side of PK that was already always there, of the way he looks at women and the way he looks at his quote unquote wife, is that you can't go beyond me and I don't like who you've become, not having any sort of personal responsibility at all. What was your take on the single PK conversation with Doute at the end of the second episode?
I think there is something so weird that's missing in this whole season between Kyle, Doute, PK, Mauricio, and I don't know what it is. It's like I don't know how to like visually explain it, other than I guess the easiest way would be like it's a puzzle with a giant hole in the middle. And everyone's trying to like be like,
and
oh,
the
there's
puzzle
no
is a
hole.
swingers party that happened that they will not talk about at some point. There's a piece of information we don't know.
It feels to me that there is a piece of information that we don't know, because they both, if in the first episode, PK and Mauricio had like just moved out on both of them right before the season, which smacks to me of like a decision or I don't want to say like a plan. I don't know, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I just think there's something odd about these two separations occurring at the same time, where the men are like having so much fun and the women are not, even though it seems like the women weren't like that. Were kind of the ones who didn't want to be with their husbands anyway. Like they seemed mad at their respective husbands.
Well, but Doute almost seems more upset about the loss of the relationship with Kyle than the loss of the relationship with PK. And it made me wonder, and just from your perspective in terms of female friendships, is this something that, it almost feels like Doute has this great sense of loss about Kyle, and Kyle has not thought about those relationships in the same way that Doute is. But Doute seems wildly hurt by Kyle, but kind of accepts the PK thing, or doesn't seem to care emotionally as much as she does with Kyle.
Yes, I don't think she doesn't care about PK. I think she's more like mad that he like dared to leave her, or dared to like think he wants to leave her.
Yeah.
I think it's more his idea.
Yeah.
I think that's more what she's like mad about. I don't know. With Kyle, I actually understand why she's mad at Kyle, because Kyle is doing a really fucked up thing to her. That thing with Kathy was obviously a joke. I don't understand why Kyle is shunning her. It's just so weird.
Well, pick a lane, Kyle. Either you get wildly offended by everything, or you actually are on the joke, like you act like you are.
And either you are insulted by the fact that she said you weren't her favorite sister, or you've never been that close.
Yeah.
So you're both saying you've never really been that close, but you're also deeply insulted that you weren't automatically her favorite. None of it makes any sense. And so if I'm Doute, I'm really pissed because she's actually been hurt by Kyle.
Yeah.
I don't see what Doute really did to Kyle at all. And that's why I feel like there's something missing.
Doute's always just been, as Karen Huger calls it, like a good soldier. Doute has been a good soldier for Kyle, and all of a sudden she's like, I'm not fighting in your war anymore, Kyle. It's my turn. And Kyle's like, what are you talking about? I can't believe you're like this right now.
Right. But it's like, why would she fight in her war after she ditched her? And then she's like mad that she isn't on her side anymore?
I know.
But
and
like, you were the one who did this.
We have the mystery of Morgan Wade, whose Kyle cannot even say her name anymore. And Andy at Bravo Fan Fest last week had a nice little shady thing where he kind of hit Kyle with a question of like, hey, we noticed you will not say Morgan Wade's name. Is that on purpose? And Kyle was like, very shady, Andy, and said, yeah, she's a public figure, doesn't want to be talked about on a reality show. But we've already let that monster out of the box, and now you can't shove it back in.
Yeah, but that doesn't change that Morgan Wade probably said, don't talk about me.
I know.
So, yeah. And Kyle smacks of having just gotten broken up with by both of her love interests.
Oh, and we had the scene of Kyle alone on her bed.
Okay, let me tell you something about that scene. I decorated a room in my house based off of a like 3 frame. Did you notice her room that she was in? That's clearly her new bedroom. Last season, she was in that bedroom, but they didn't call it her new bedroom. But she was like, at one scene, she's unpacking in that room.
Yeah.
And I saw the way like it was decorated, like the wallpaper and the like trim color. And I decorated a room in my house based off of that. Sammy, Kyle
inspired a room in your house. You took Kyle Richards' single lady lifestyle and made a room out of it in your own place.
Yeah. Before I realized, I think that it was her new room. I literally have a picture.
Did you tell your husband
scene.
this, Sammy? Did you tell your husband you are decorating this as Kyle's room?
Yeah, I did. I was like, look, it's inspired by this one frame of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills I saw last season. I want it to be just like this. It looks amazing, by the way.
I want to decorate a room, whatever that room Kathy Hilton has. It looks like it has all the machines that's keeping her alive. Like she was hooked up to like 30 different it looked like blood transfusions were happening. It's scary.
It looked like Poor Things, right?
Yes. No, Willem Dafoe is going to pop in and be like, we are going to fix you, Kathy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry, hold on.
I love we all have the post-Thanksgiving nasal drip and the cough. It's great.
It's amazing. But so Kyle is clearly like her kids are moving out. Portia's like core teenage years where she doesn't want to talk to her mother. And you can just see I bet you she's wondering about her sexuality because that is a new thing.
Right?
And
that you think you wouldn't deal with at a certain point. You think you're kind of well on your way. And then all of a sudden life presents you with this new, like, oh my gosh, a whole new me potentially.
Right. And the person she's upset about is Morgan, clearly. And Doute, I don't know. Do you think because, what's so strange to me is like, those two clearly were good friends. Like you
obviously
weren't acting. It's not like the relationship between Kyle and Rinna, where there was a friendship, but it was clearly a TV friendship, or for Kyle and Erica, they clearly had a relationship that was real and a sisterhood. Like, I wouldn't just use that word, sisterly vibes. Like her and Teddy, kind of. Those were clearly real off-camera relationships. So I don't know why she's doing this. And I don't understand, and I want the answer.
Well, I think this season is really going to be about almost breaking Kyle. You know how like last season of OC, I don't know if you watch OC, but the whole thing was what can Shannon Bedore withstand? How much can we break Shannon Bedore each episode? And the fact that Shannon Bedore even made it through the season, already you get a participation trophy. You're like, God, see, I didn't think you could do it. And I think a little bit they're going to really all come at Kyle in the same way because I feel they don't feel Kyle is being as honest as they want her to be, as honest as the show needs her to be. And if you then compare it to what we just saw on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City this past week with Mary Cosby and Robert Jr. in the very end, now that is an honest conversation. So if we're having housewives that are being honest in that way, Kyle, you're going to have to come clean because unfortunately you chose to make your money and your bones in reality television based on your life.
Well, what does she do if like she can't because Morgan asked her not to?
Well, I mean, listen, she can get through. I mean, Kyle will always be there. She will be the dinosaur in Beverly Hills she will be able to determine when she leaves that show. But I think the audience will get more frustrated. The cast members will get more frustrated. And then when you have Doute being forced to spill the beans on a relationship with PK, there will be obvious anger that will all be directed at Kyle. And I think if you watch the preview, you see Kyle in like a bathrobe at a spa and they're all kind of staring at Kyle as she tries to run out and leaves in like a SUV. And so I even project in my head, oh, they're all coming for Kyle this season.
Just to be more
honest.
Open.
Yeah, exactly. You tell the truth.
She has been the one who's been, you need to be honest, like every season.
Right?
Can we get her on this show?
God, well, I mean, God, she's a dream. She's a dream guest. I'm sure Dylan's talked to
she
her a couple of
times. Podcasts.
Well, no, because I think she's at a certain level that you can determine. She's like a Lisa Vanderpump in a sense, where unless they have like
goes on shows.
Well, yeah, but like even as you go, but she has new shows to promote, like Vanderpump Villa and things like this. If Kyle were to do another show, she's got that Amazon Live money. That's where she goes. Amazon Live.
True. She could also promote her new Hallmark movie.
Oh, yes. By the way, also, that's what I could see. I could legitimately see Kyle giving it all up for a sitcom. Like I could see her doing a multicam sitcom, being the mother on a multicam sitcom on ABC Family.
Yeah, she does have like TV, made for TV vibes. Like,
yeah.
I could see her having like what Garcelle has, kind of a multi-project contract. That could be her next thing. But I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Like, is she going to get off the Housewives? Is she going to let Kathy win?
I mean, listen, have you ever read that book, House of Hilton?
Of course I have.
Oh my gosh. See, that's what people go find this book, you guys. It's not in paperback. You can buy a hardcover, but it's kind of expensive on
Kindle.
Amazon, like used. I have a prized possession copy. But it is really, there needs to be some sort of docuseries, like a classy docuseries, like an HBO Max one, really going into the Hilton of it all.
Over Kathy's dead body, put it that way.
I know, but I mean, Kathy can't live forever. I mean, obviously she's hooked up to all those machines. I'm sorry, that was rude.
she is.
What did you think of Salt Lake City? Like this season in general, and then this past week's episode with the Robert and Mary of it all.
Well, that was a very heartbreaking scene. That was like cinema verite. I don't even know what to make of that. It's hard to watch that and not really feel for them. I think I think maybe because of the unique culture of Salt Lake City, the Utah Mormons of it all.
Mormons are having a huge year, Sammy. Like what a big year for Mormons.
They've been on the rise for quite a while.
They're a growth industry. Mormons have a growth industry right now.
The Mormon culture, and Kate Kennedy talks about this. The Mormon culture is really very what are the words? Like jives values wise with the culture, American culture as it exists now, like with everything on social media, kind of people put forward their image. And it also, I think, works for the type of like careers that Mormon women can have or that are easy for them to have, like social media.
They're allowed to have.
I mean, technically,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what they're really quote unquote allowed to have, but this like social forward, showing their clothing and their lifestyle and their home and their recipes, that's all like really works with the culture and how I think like how status and respect are sort of
trad wife is aspirational.
Yeah. And I think with Salt Lake City, because you're not having like your true deep religious, you're not having your most observant Mormons on reality TV. You have bad Mormon, like, Heather Gay.
Yeah.
And I think because of this culture, you see a lot of like family trauma very up close because a lot of it is repressed until they get put into these situations. And then I don't know if you watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Of course.
It's sort
Are
of
you
like,
kidding me?
okay. Yeah,
I'm an honorary Mormon at this point.
Like, wait, I listened to them on your show. I'm now remembering. That was wonderful. There's like, it bubbles over quicker than in Beverly Hills, where they can
stretch it out for seasons.
Or hide it, or in New York where they kind of know how to produce around it. Like, there's this uncanny quality to it all. And I don't know, some of it's like the most raw for some reason.
Well, with Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, this is why I thought Hulu really were brilliant in giving a 20 episode order for a second season when they usually do 8 to 10 episodes on Hulu. So I thought that was great because they know they got to strike while the iron's hot, get them before they become even bigger than they already were. But I also think it touches on these things with organized religion where a lot of people will be encouraged to marry early. They will be like traditional man and wife. And so you get these people getting married when they're 18, still not having explored their own sexuality, explored drinking, explored these things that we had periods of times in our lives in our early 20s where we got to make mistakes. We got to do this. They're doing that same thing, but now they're married with kids, and it throws them into this crisis of conscience. Like, oh my God, and I'm betraying my Lord. And really that makes fascinating reality television. And even on TikTok, it spills over. This Taylor Frankie Paul is getting into fights with girls that were part of the soft swinging, saying, you know you liked kissing me. I have the receipts that you like kissing me. Stop saying that you don't like kissing me. And you're like, oh my God, it's one thing that you're all living this experience, but then you're putting it out for our consumption. So you're horrified, yet you can't turn away like a car crash.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not judging.
No.
Like, at all.
Oh my God.
The beauty of it is like, I'm excited for them.
No, well, I'm excited for them, but it does scare me with any kind of organized religion. That's the part that scares me.
Well, like, I don't know why I want them to stray from the Lord so badly, but it's just it's just entertaining. It's like, and I also, that's also why I think Salt Lake City is so interesting. Like, Mary Cosby was born into that world too. Whitney, Heather, like, then you have like Lisa, who kind of does her own like
she's a great mix of Judaism and Mormonism. Yeah,
and it's just such a fascinating group of people. And so Mary Cosby. Wild that they put that out there. I feel bad that is out there when I don't think he really was in a position to consent to that. But you know, I don't know. I felt like I have a lot of empathy for him, and I wish them the best and healing. Like, it just felt very sad and very serious. I didn't have any like negative feelings about it, or
I didn't have.
Nor was I like.
No, it's just that, Sammy,
juicy.
What I think is interesting, though, on a show like Salt Lake, or even Salt Lake City shows in general, there is this element of so bizarre. I always say it's like a mix between David Lynch and John Waters films, where you're like, oh, this doesn't really exist. There's no way. And it's like the snow-capped mountains. So it's very foreign to what I see in my everyday life. So it already seems fantastical. And then when you have this real scene where it immediately grounds you in reality, where you're kind of like, you know, you get goosebumps because you know it's a level of realness that we don't get to see often, because a lot of housewives will try to hide things or do their best to hide it. So we're trying to pull out secrets, like with Kyle. And Mary is saying, here this is. Now, you just said, I don't know if he was able to consent. I do think in whatever way he could in his state consented, because these issues have been going on for 2+ years that Mary's been aware of. This is not the first time they've had this conversation. It's the first time they've had it on the show. But this, you know, he unfortunately had been arrested, 2 years ago. He's already done 2 home confinements. He was wearing an ankle monitor. He broke a lot of those conditions of one of those like home 30-day stays. So, that information is out there. But I was so glad that I think he agreed to have that honest conversation, because I do think in some weird world that does help people, and people are going through an epidemic, especially with, young people, of the kind of, drugs that are, kids are participating in. Wow. I just really sounded like the drugs that kids are participating in, Sammy.
This is now a DARE program.
So hey, kids, if you're watching, hey, all you youths of America.
Yeah, I mean, his honesty definitely felt like the honesty you're getting from someone who seems like they want to make a change. And I mean, to say, I don't think he I'm sure he consented to the extent that he could consent, because also when someone has that level of problem, they're not like, they're conscious of their, like, they are what is considered, I don't want to say sober, but they're aware enough. And he's had these cameras in his house. It's the first time he's let them into his room. So it's, like an extra level. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to his mental state, but yeah. No.
Well, I mean, I even the decoration leading up to Robert Jr.'s room, I keep talking about, because you have this ornate gold frames of young Robert in little outfits. And then you have this shot that looks like, I was saying, like an A24 horror film with Mary from behind. And it's like the block lettering Robert Jr. And you see the door. I'm like, maybe we start taking those things down and, maybe encourage, like it just, you really get the sense of this life that is being lived. And I found that so dark, but I'm glad that it was brought out into the light. I'm just now curious, because all these other women, all these other housewives, they collect dossiers of information on each other. And was there some sort of agreement with all these other housewives to not bring this up? Because the information was, I've known this information for a while. So, they have Meredith looking into Whitney's Alibaba.
Well, I think it's like, I think that there is a sense that maybe this is because of like the Mormon tendency to sort of hide imperfections, is that like addiction is a disease and it's not her, it's her son. And it sort of feels a little evil to like out someone's son's addiction.
Yeah.
When they're, because also like that could really mess up his.
Well, because they're when they're still deep in the addiction potentially too.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know, or maybe like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem that like tempting. Like even what we were watching didn't feel that like juicy or exploitative, even though you could argue that, but I didn't feel exploitative to me. I can't explain it. It felt like weirdly caring.
Yes.
More than
it showed us a
others.
different side of Mary as a mom. I think one of the greatest favors the show did this season is not to focus on Mary's religion at all. So we get to see her as a mother. We get to see her, like Mary Cosby, all of a sudden this season is starting to make sense to me. And I'm like, what happened in 2024? Like, is this just, are we in the upside down? Mary Cosby is like the reliable narrator of this group. She's calling people out and she's actually kind of right about what she's saying.
Maybe being on the show has, like, think about the life she grew up in before before she was exposed to the wider world, meaning she was not like she had exposure to, meaning like the world perceived her. Now this experience could have opened her eyes to like maybe the way things are, and maybe like changed everything, because she was pretty insulated before. And now imagine like you have all these people weighing in with all these different perspectives that you could have never imagined, and maybe she is able to see that and be different, or I don't know, like people are so nuanced and interesting, and like I feel like we tend to think, oh, a regular person would react X way or would such and such thing, but I think it's hard for us to understand given the world she grew up in, which is just so
it's something that
field of anything we can fathom.
But that's why I think it does, these shows work when they can take us behind the scenes of a world that we don't really kind of know, and we get to learn something new. But then we have these little moments like that conversation with their son, which is very real. And we see like, okay, I can understand that to a degree, or I can relate that to a certain thing in my life. And so there are those moments of connection, of reaching across the proverbial reality show aisle.
Yes. I mean, it's really hard to not, when you see a scene like that where it's clearly not, there's no putting on airs, and we've watched enough Housewives to know when scenes are kind of planned, or, Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz talking about, whatever thing they're trying to set up. Like there's always, you can see when something has degrees of that in it.
Yeah.
And you could see that this didn't. And I think it's just impossible to not connect to a mother's love of someone who clearly cares so much about their child with all of their with all of their issues. And I think that like unconditional love really comes through, and you can't, like, what are you going to say to that?
Well, no, and then I was just thinking about Kathy Hilton because they had the I Love Paris reality show at this time last year, the second season, and we got to
Ooh,
see
so
Kathy a
much.
lot on that interact with Paris, and that was a different form of a mother-daughter relationship that I was like, whoa, okay, I see exactly how, like, you really got this peek behind a curtain where I was like, wow, Kathy really won't share this on Beverly Hills, but she's really sharing way too much on the Peacock series for Paris Hilton.
And I mean, I would say energetically, you're getting like the opposite thing
Yeah.
between
Yeah,
Kathy
exactly.
and Mary. But speaking of mother-daughter relationships, the other relationship I found really fascinating, and when I say like you don't really get this type of family trauma elsewhere, is Bronwyn and Gwen.
Todd or Gwen?
And Todd. Well, Bronwyn and Gwen, but also Bronwyn and Todd.
Yeah.
Separate. Bronwyn and Gwen was really interesting because like that was
Her
just
daughter.
so personal. And
Yeah.
her daughter, that felt like a little more exploitative because you had like Lisa Barlow like meddling. But Bronwyn and Todd, I want to hear your take on because I have to like watch that I have to watch all their scenes 10 more times before I can
Well, see, like the Bronwyn Todd,
I want to give.
When he first did the, you got to pack up and leave, John, if you're, you got to get you out of here if that's going to, I'm like, I'll allow that one time because you don't know how the show works potentially, even though you should know how the show works. So to me, that was kind of amusing. But then I saw it happen again and again. And I was like, ooh, this is bad news because I so love Bronwyn so immediately. It's kind of how I felt about Heather Gay the first season of Salt Lake, which I do not feel that way about Heather Gay anymore. So I was like, wow. But it just goes to show you Bronwyn can be so great in these situations. And there is still this potential albatross around her neck of her husband, who I think they love each other, but I think he wants things in a certain way. He's a businessman of a certain age. And we've just seen time and time again that these shows don't do well for relationships like that.
Yeah, I don't think that is going to age that well.
Well, yeah, because then they see themselves on TV, and even if they're not consciously thinking about it, they start to see it, and then they're like, oh, that's what we look like, and then they hear all of our opinions on it. And I do wonder what's the give and take of how much they listen to from the audience, how much they actually personalize that and do something about it, or how much they just ignore it completely.
I think it's probably impossible to ignore completely. And that can probably test the relationship.
Yeah.
In itself.
But Todd seems like kind of my way or the highway. He's just very gruff. He loves an arms crossed moment. He, like he's always like, you don't say that. Don't say that there. Yeah,
I think we're gonna find out more about them.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it's really great season. I also I call her Brittany Bateman, who's with Jared Osman. Yeah. And by the way, have you ever checked out Brittany's social media? She has been so moved by this movie Wicked. She painted herself in green in Vegas and was like dancing around like the Vegas streets singing the main song, Defying Gravity.
Yeah. She was holding space for the lyrics.
She was holding space for Defying Gravity on the Vegas Strip.
I can't believe she did green face. That's so racist. It's crazy.
It's too soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then she
should know better. I mean,
yes.
Look, it's 2024. You should know better than to do green face.
I love Housewives that actually, they really go for it. Like she's really going for it social media wise. Like she had all of her friends do a song like, what about me? Because she said, what about me at the Mary Cosby brunch.
Okay, I'll be honest, like her effort level. Okay, if I can visualize this, it's sort of like, when when you're on a bike and you actually can't keep up with how fast it's pedaling because the resistance is not high enough. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
That's like feels like her whole existence on Housewives to me.
That's beautiful. What a great example. Wow. So she needs to kick it. She needs to find some way to kick it into a gear.
Yes. Like pick a thing. Like being extra is not a thing.
But also her fighting against then just like she obviously likes to drink wine like a lot of us do. And it's one of those like religion things, like how offensive. Why did you bring me a bottle of wine? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? It's like, pick a lane. Either you're fine with drinking wine or you aren't, but just realize nobody else can read your mind.
Right. She feels just very conscious of the camera to me. and she could have an interesting story if like almost if she would like hide it a little.
Well, see, but that's
Not
why.
like lie, but like make it, I don't know. Show don't tell.
Oh yeah, no, I had an acting teacher that show don't tell. I just think she works within this group of ladies because they all have their unique wackiness. Like, so I think her form of wackiness works with the other forms of wackiness. So it doesn't really, to me, it's even hard to stand out in that group because you're competing with Lisa, Meredith's bangs you're competing with. There is so many little things each episode that your like eyes are drawn to that are like, okay, yeah, Brittany's crazy too.
That's what I think she would do better on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Would you
like
want to
she's
see
more that speed?
Well, I heard a rumor, and this is, a vuma, as Meredith would say. Would you ever want to see Lala Kent on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
Well, maybe they should invite her on a vacation and we see how it goes.
Yeah, she like threatens to pop one of the other ladies. You want to get popped?
I don't know. I want to. Okay, no, because she doesn't have any authentic friendships with a single one of them. So there's no like real hook, and they have enough random being thrown together already on that show.
Well, I mean, we see when, you have authentic friendships, it just makes the show so much better. Like it makes the show. So that's why RHONY, which I don't mind as much as everybody else seems to mind it, we're watching them form relationships over these last 2 seasons when a lot of the times relationships should already be formed and then put the cameras on them because, then we don't have to catch up or watch relationships form.
Yeah, I don't mind RHONY as much as other people do either. I don't think I'm watching like Scary Island. I'm not expecting that. But yeah, I agree with that. And it can be more interesting. Like there can be more payoff. I think the problem with RHONY is that they need to have some like community building offsites to form those relationships. Like they should
You
have
want to
an
send them
off-
to an off camera summer camp kind of a thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And
why
then
doesn't
I want to
Betches
give
host
them
that? Why doesn't Betches host a weekend summer camp for RHONY ladies just to like prepare them for the next season?
Well, that would be really expensive to not film. Also to film.
So we need to monetize it if Betches is going to do it,
Well,
but
you're
it's
the
a
one who's
decent
looking
idea.
out for you're the one who's looking out for Bravo's P&L.
Come on, we got to think about money here. Like,
okay, it's like they need to have what they need to do is they need to spend a week together and then they need to not see each other for about 3 months, and that needs to start filming. So that they're not picking up on the drama from before, but they have deep enough relationships and alliances that you can start a new season and there's like meat.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's, I like the element of not seeing each other and then picking up out of nowhere, but they already have relationships formed and not relying on what happened last season and kind of starting fresh.
Right. And then they can all bring something from their own lives, but also, and let the ones who are friends talk in that time and, don't force it.
Yeah. Just be natural. That's all we're asking. As we wind down here, I was thinking about ending 2024 and starting 2025. And I know this is a weirder year potentially than some, but do you have any kind of end of the year practices that you institute on a yearly basis? And how, going into 2025, do you have any practices for going into a new year?
I kind of gave up on all that. I got sick of breaking promises to myself. So
I was like, do you set intentions for the month, Sami?
No, I don't set intentions upon the new year, but I kind of do that all the time. Like I'm always sort of not on any particular like, this, not a set schedule, but I feel like I'm always like reevaluating, making like, envisioning new things, making notes of what I want, like always kind of have a vision board in my notes app to some extent.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I don't like artificial times. I do it more on my birthday if I'm reflecting, because that's like my day, not like the commercial marketed day that you should be improving yourself.
What are you looking forward to in 2025? It doesn't have to even be your own personal thing, but anything entertainment. I mean, you could be looking forward to Wicked Part 2 in November of next year.
I mean, other than Project 2025,
Which, by the way, Sami, I will say at Thanksgiving the other night, I didn't even mean to do this, but I was talking about like what I'm going to do for 2025. I'm like, it's called Project 2025, and I'm going to put all of my hopes, all of my dreams. They're like, you might want to rethink that name. And I was like, no, it's like Project 2025. And they're like, you idiot. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, it's just a really horrible thing to call 2025.
Right. They took it. I'm looking forward to the White Lotus.
Yeah, White Lotus season 3. We saw a little snippet of the preview. We'll probably get a full preview before the end of the year.
I don't know. It's not coming that soon, I don't think, but that's okay. I need something to look forward to.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. Wicked part 2. I was trying to think of.
I loved Wicked part 1. So
I'm sure Taylor Swift will have some other era in 2025 or potentially an engagement.
I know. I was actually going to maybe bring this up if we ran out of things to say, but I was wondering, like, I feel like we're getting on engagement or breakup. Like we have to move in one direction.
Yeah, one or the other. By the way, that's what we should just start. Screw elections. Let's start voting on stuff like that, like the fun stuff. Like you either get engaged or you pack it up, Taylor.
Like Betch of the Year, which is on Betches.com right now. We have nominees and you can vote this year.
And by the way, folks, this will be out. This episode will be out on Wednesday, but Tuesday's episode, if you haven't listened to yet, I go through every one of the nominees for Betch of the Year. So go listen to that because it's actually pretty flippin' fantastic. And Dylan Hafer did a great interview with with Risa Tisa and Mercedes Javid and the
Four Seasons Orlando baby.
You got the Four Seasons Orlando baby. Like what kind of writer did that baby have to get the baby here? That's
confidential.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it is, look, child labor laws, no joke or no joke. But yeah, no, it's very, very exciting. I'm excited about that. There was something else I just thought of. Oh, Reputation, probably Taylor's version, I assume will
Well, do you
come.
think, wait, so the last couple dates of the Eras tour is this weekend, right?
Yes.
So most likely we'll have to get the announcement for Reputation Taylor's version this weekend.
I don't know. I wouldn't hang my hat on that. She likes to keep us guessing.
Well, Sami, I hate to break this to everybody listening, but last night I couldn't sleep. I had a lot of anxiety, and so I was on TikTok, which is horrible. And I think I was on there for hours. Like just all of a sudden, hours were passing.
Probably.
And it turns out, I don't even know if we'll be able to release this episode because tomorrow there's supposed to be an alien attack.
What?
There's supposed to be like an alien war tomorrow, according to TikTok. Yeah, some AI machine like 30 years ago predicted that the aliens would attack in the year that Joe Rogan interviewed Donald Trump. And this is before Joe Rogan was actually even doing a podcast. So an AI machine predicted this 30 years ago. So I don't know what that means, but I watched at least 80 videos about this. And I got to tell you, like, I'm really scared about the alien attack. So if this doesn't release, it's been good talking to you, Sami, but.
Well, if something weird happens tomorrow, I will know that that's what's going on. I won't question it.
You'll know immediately. You'll be, Ryan was talking about this.
This must be the alien attack. This must be the alien attack.
Well, Sami, I got to fly at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And then I'm like, what if the aliens are in the sky when I'm flying back to LA? And then I got all paranoid about that. But then I found out the aliens are supposedly in the ocean now from TikTok as well. Like they're in the ocean.
Well, it sounds like a good place to be would be the air then.
Well,
if they're in the ocean.
Wait, to get this though, they said the reason there's been so many alien sightings lately is that they're
the vaccine.
They said no. They said they're worried for us after the election, and the aliens are coming.
Are you fucking with me?
I'm not. Why would I, Sami? I make up a lot of stuff, but why would I make that? That's too specific of it. Go look up TikTok
from the beginning. Like
no, Sami. I swear to God,
go look. Disinformation.
Oh my gosh. I do not spread disinformation unless it's about Vanderpump Rules. And I swear to God, I was up for hours with this last night. I mean, I think we're good. You send me
a video.
I will send you a video. I just don't want to screw up your algorithm then, but it's definitely there.
Do you think that maybe these people are just really trying to make it in the creator funds so they suck you in with just like irrational shit that can never be solved, but you keep trying to figure it out?
Some of them are, and they're always like the shittiest video of it. Like, it's like, oh my God, look at this UFO. And it's like the camera can't focus at all. And it's like, it's just like a blur. And you're like, oh, this is like, we have the most high-tech phones ever, and we can't get a clear shot of this to save our life.
Get a DSLR cameraman. Influencers have them on the street in Soho. You can find one.
We need UFO paparazzis. Like we can paparazzi like Apple Martin from like, you know, her debutante ball this weekend from anywhere, but we can't get an alien.
Can someone share the number for Backgrid with the Martians?
If the aliens are in contact with the same people at Backgrid that Kris Jenner is. And I think that's because that's the thing too. If the aliens do come down, will they get immediately greenlit for a reality show? Like immediately they'll get a reality show.
They already have them. Have you seen the History Channel?
Yeah, Ancient Aliens. Or you could actually make the argument that Keeping Up with the Kardashians is our first alien family, if we want to go there.
That's what the plastic surgery is.
Oh my God.
Lately?
Did you see what we did there? Do you see that? That's amazing.
This is
folks,
like an improv class.
It kind of is. It really turned into that.
Sammy
Sage is one of
here's my resolution.
Yeah.
I actually want to get better at yes-anding because I host a lot of shows and I do a lot of talking, and I feel like sometimes I'll say like no or like no but or
really
no right. Well, maybe you're an easy person to yes and because we agree about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you also yes and I tend to mirror people. So one thing I want to do is get better at like building on things rather than shutting them down.
So you guys, just to,
like
that's a tenet of improv comedy is that yes and. So basically if you had like a scene with two people on stage and the person goes, hey, we're selling hot dogs on the moon, and the second person goes, we're not on the moon, what are you talking about? That's not yes anding. So the second person's supposed to be like, yeah, nobody's here to buy them because we're the only people on the moon. And then that kind of keeps that scene going. That's what Sammy's talking about. But it's one of those things is that you don't want to shut people down in life as a general rule because it just stops things dead in their tracks.
Yup. And I think it's good for creating entertainment. I think it's good for building consensus and having conversations in life. So it's something
just
I'm
like this
on.
book, Democracy in Retrograde, out now, which is a perfect holiday gift. This will keep conversations going. I think it is a positive look at everything happening in our political system. I do want to just tell people there is a lot of hope in this book, but not wishy-washy, like fruity. It's just a lot of practical facts and knowledge and ways to ground yourself in certain realities. And I really did learn a lot from it. So I know we're all exhausted with all of this right now, but I'm going to put it up on my Instagram this week. So it'll have the link. It'll have all of that stuff. So go out and get a copy. I really think you will thank me for that.
Oh, wait, let's give away 5 copies to your listeners.
That would be amazing. So
okay,
I'm going to post that on my Instagram. The first 5 listeners we'll put that in the show notes, but I would be honored to give away 5 of these books.
And all you guys got to do is send Ryan your address and we will get you those copies.
And don't worry, you guys, you can trust me with your address. Like I'm not going to do anything weird or anything like that.
Are you sure?
Okay. Well, anyway, Sammy Sage, ladies and gentlemen, Sammy Sage.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.